couldn't have asked for a more perfect setting. The warm ocean breeze carried the soft melody of the live music, and the gentle sound of waves filled the pauses in our conversation. As we sat under the stars, Jake's fingers intertwined with mine, his thumb softly tracing circles on the back of my hand. It felt as if the world had melted away, leaving just the two of us wrapped in this quiet, magical moment. "This place is beautiful," I whispered, gazing up at the twinkling lights strung around the patio. "Not as beautiful as you," Jake replied, his voice soft but filled with sincerity. My heart fluttered at his words, and for a moment, I forgot Max was even there, until he suddenly coughed dramatically. "Wow, I feel like the third wheel over here," Max teased, grinning at us. Jake laughed, shaking his head. "You kind of are, Max." Max held his hands up in mock surrender. All right. I'll give you two a little space," he said, wandering off toward the music, leaving Jake and me alone under the stars. As the soft glow of the lights reflected in Jake's eyes, he leaned in closer. "I've been waiting for the right moment," he murmured, reaching into his pocket. Time seemed to stand still as he pulled out a small velvet box. My breath caught in my throat. "I know this trip was meant to celebrate our engagement," he began, his voice full of emotion. "But I wanted to ask you in a way you'd never forget." Tears welled in my eyes as he slowly opened the box, revealing a ring that sparkled under the starlight. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his gaze locked with mine. A wave of happiness and surprise washed over me. I nodded, barely able to find my voice. Yes, of course." The moment felt surreal as Jake slid the ring onto my finger, and the world around us disappeared once again, just the two of us, under the stars, beginning the next chapter of our story. Secret glances, his eyes filled with desire. Suddenly Max announced he needed to step out for a quick errand. "I'll be back in a bit," he said, and I felt a rush of relief as soon as the door closed behind him. Jake turned to me. "Finally some alone time," he said, wrapping his arms around me. My heart raced as he leaned in to kiss me, and I melted into his embrace. Just then I heard the sound of the door opening. My heart sank. It was Max, back earlier than expected. "Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt," he said with a laugh, clearly not sensing the tension. Jake pulled away and I tried to hide my disappointment. "Let's just watch a movie," I suggested, trying to play it cool. We all settled down to watch a romantic comedy, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't help but glance at Jake, who seemed equally frustrated. As the movie played, I felt the atmosphere shift. It was almost as if the air was charged with anticipation. Then something unexpected happened. During a particularly funny scene, Max made a joke and we all burst out laughing, but as we laughed I noticed Jake leaning closer to me and I felt a thrill run through me. There was a magnetic pull between us that I couldn't ignore. After the movie ended, Max announced he was going to bed. "You two can hang out for a while," he said, winking. I felt a rush of excitement and dread. "Thanks, Max," I called after him, heart racing. As soon as the door closed, Jake turned to me, eyes sparkling with mischief. "What if we sneak over to the pool?" he suggested. "Just the two of us," I grinned, feeling adventurous. "Let's do it." We tiptoed out to the pool area. The moon shining brightly above us, it was quiet and serene, the perfect setting for a romantic escape. We dove into the cool water, and as we swam our laughter echoed in the night. Jake pulled me close, whispering sweet things that made my heart flutter. I couldn't believe how perfect this night was turning out, but just as I was about to kiss him again, I heard a splash nearby. My heart dropped. "Max," I called out, unsure if I wanted him to answer. Sure enough, he emerged from the shadows, looking surprised to see us. "What are you guys doing here?" he asked, trying to play it cool. "Just swimming," Jake said, but I could see the frustration in his eyes. Max smirked. "You two looked like you were having too much fun in the hotel room." I felt a blush creep over my cheeks. "We were just watching a movie," I said, trying to keep my cool, but I knew Max was on to us. "Sure you were," he laughed, and I couldn't help but feel a mix of embarrassment and excitement. "Come on, let's swim together," Max suggested, diving into the water. Jake and I exchanged a look, both of us trying to hide our annoyance. We didn't want to include Max in our romantic plans, but it seemed that wasn't going to happen. As we swam, I felt a pull towards Jake. The chemistry was undeniable, even with Max splashing around us. I found a moment to swim close to Jake, whispering, "This is how I imagine tonight." "Me neither," he replied, grinning mischievously, "but I'm not giving up that easily." After a few minutes, Max decided to climb out of the pool, saying he was tired. "I'll head to bed again," he announced. I felt a sense of relief wash over me as soon as he left. Jake pulled me close. "Now where were we?" he asked, leaning in for a kiss. This time there were no interruptions. We kissed passionately, and I felt fireworks exploding in my heart. But just as we were getting lost in the moment, a loud noise echoed from the hotel. "What was that?" I gasped, pulling away. Jake looked equally startled. "It sounded like it came from the hotel," he said, concerned. "Let's check it out." We hurried back inside, our hearts racing. As we reached our room, we discovered a crowd of guests gathered in the hallway. "What's going on?" Jake asked. "Someone set off the fire alarm," a hotel staff member explained. "Everyone needs to evacuate." My heart sank. All the romance, all the excitement dashed away in an instant. As we evacuated the building, I couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of the situation. Here we were ready for a romantic getaway, and instead we were standing outside in our swimsuits with a bunch of strangers. After a while, the alarm was cleared and we were allowed back inside. I looked at Jake, laughing at the ridiculousness of it all. "Well, that was unexpected," he smiled back, "but it doesn't have to end here." Once back in our room, Max was already fast asleep on the bed, oblivious to our adventure. Jake and I exchanged knowing glances. "Looks like we need to be quiet," I whispered, feeling a rush of excitement. With Max in the room, we had to be sneaky. We crept over to the other side of the bed, stealing kisses and playful touches. It felt exhilarating, like we were teenagers sneaking around. As we cuddled, I could feel the tension building between us again. It was almost too much to handle, the thrill of being so close to Jake while trying not to wake Max. After what felt like hours of quiet giggles and secret kisses, we finally decided it was time for bed, but I knew the night wasn't quite over yet. The next morning I woke up to find Jake already up, his eyes bright with mischief. "Are you ready for round two?" he asked with a smirk. I grinned back, excitement bubbling within me. "Definitely." The weekend continued with more surprises and romantic moments filled with laughter, love, and even a few unexpected twists. Max was always around, but Jake and I made the most of our time together, sneaking kisses and stolen moments whenever we could. As the day went on, we explored the beautiful beach and indulged in delicious food from local vendors. I was amazed by how our bond grew stronger with each passing moment. Despite Max's constant presence, we played beach volleyball with Max showing off his skills while Jake cheered me on. "Come on, you can do better than that," Jake called, his voice filled with encouragement. I was grateful for his support, and it only made me want to impress him even more. After an exhilarating game, we decided to take a break and relax on the beach. I laid back on my towel, soaking up the sun, while Jake sat beside me, his hand gently brushing my hair away from my face. "You know," he said soft, "I've been thinking about how lucky I am to have you in my life." I felt my heart skip a beat. "Really? You mean that?" "Of course," he replied, his gaze intense. "You make everything better." Just as I was about to respond, Max crashed our moment. "Hey, what are you two lovebirds talking about?" he said, plopping down beside us. It all started on a bright, sunny morning when I received a text that made my heart skip. It was from Jake, my future husband. We were planning a short getaway to celebrate our upcoming engagement, and I could hardly contain my excitement. I jumped out of bed, ready to pack for a weekend filled with love and adventure. Little did I know, this trip would take an unexpected turn. As I gathered my things, my stepbrother Max showed up at the house, suitcase in hand. "Hey, I hope you don't mind me tagging along," he said with a playful grin. I shrugged. It was a little surprising, but Max always knew how to bring fun into any situation. Maybe his presence would add to the adventure. When we arrived at the hotel, I was mesmerized. The place was stunning, a pool overlooking the ocean and the soft hum of waves in the distance. I could already picture Jake and I enjoying every moment together. As I unpacked, Jake texted me to say he was on his way. My heart fluttered. Meanwhile, Max was busy cracking jokes, lightening the mood with his usual antics. "Let's hit the pool before Jake gets here," he suggested. I laughed and agreed. Why not? We changed into our swimsuits and made our way to the pool. The sun shimmered on the water, and for a while, it felt like we didn't have a care in the world. We splashed, laughed, and soaked in the warm glow of the afternoon, unaware of the surprises the rest of the trip held for us. And enjoying ourselves. But as I swam, my thoughts kept drifting to Jake and how perfect the weekend was going to be. After about an hour of fun, I glanced at my phone. "He's here!" I exclaimed, feeling my heart flutter with excitement. I quickly dried off and hurried back to our room to get ready. As I brushed my hair and slipped into a light, flowing dress, I couldn't stop smiling. My mind raced with thoughts of what Jake might have planned for us: romantic dinners, beach walks, maybe even a surprise or two. Just as I finished getting dressed, there was a soft knock at the door. I opened it to see Jake standing there, his eyes lighting up the moment he saw me. "Wow, you look amazing," he said, his voice warm and sincere. Butterflies filled my stomach, and I felt my cheeks flush as I smiled back at him. "Thanks. Ready for a fun weekend?" I asked, hoping he could feel the excitement radiating from me. Jake grinned, leaning in slightly. "I've been looking forward to this all week." His words melted away any lingering nerves, and I felt safe, happy, and ready to soak in every moment we had together. For an unforgettable night. Absolutely. "I have a surprise for you," Jake said with a playful glint in his eye. My heart raced, eager to know what he had planned. But just as I leaned in to ask, Max walked in, looking slightly awkward. "Hey guys, what's going on?" he asked, trying a little too hard to sound casual. I sighed internally, wishing he'd take the hint and give us some space. "Just planning our evening," Jake replied, his excitement evident. "Well, I'm here too." "Let's do something together," Max chimed in cheerfully. I forced a smile and nodded, not wanting to upset him. It wasn't what I envisioned, but I couldn't bring myself to hurt Max's feelings. We decided to start the night with dinner. Over the meal, the three of us laughed and shared stories, and for a while, it felt light and fun. But beneath the surface, I could sense the growing tension between Jake and me. Every glance we exchanged told me the same thing: we wanted to be alone, away from Max. After dinner, we returned to the hotel. Jake squeezed my hand as we walked through the lobby. "How about a game night?" he suggested, his eyes flickering with mischief. I nodded, though part of me hoped the night might naturally shift into something more intimate. Back in the room, Max immediately flopped onto the couch, rummaging through the games. His usual goofy antics had us laughing, but I found myself watching Jake more than the game. I could tell he felt the same. His gaze lingered on me between rounds, and every time our eyes met, there was an unspoken desire for the night to take a different turn. Max, oblivious to the silent exchange between us, cracked jokes and kept the energy high. But as much as I loved his carefree spirit, I longed for a quiet moment, just Jake and me. With each passing hour, the anticipation grew stronger. I wondered if the night would ever unfold the way I imagined.